To describe this story as horrifying would be an understatement. And if that sounds like a warning, then that's exactly what it's meant to be. It deals with the sexual abuse of children by satanic cults. And not only that, human sacrifices as well. We started investigating these secret satanic cults when a British Member of Parliament linked them with the ritual murder of children. In this day and age, it sounded too far-fetched, as did suggestions that the same thing might be happening in Australia. But then we met Teresa. She's only 15, and for 12 of those years, she's been the victim of relentless depravity. Teresa's story is both shocking and compelling, yet it's a story she's anxious to tell. But again, we should warn you that parts of this report may be distressing.
Friends of family and strangers and my family used to rape me, make me abort the babies I had.
It would be hard to imagine more misery and suffering than what Teresa says she's had to endure.
And us kids would be made to do things with the adults and the animals, and then a sacrifice would happen.
The sacrifice, were these animal sacrifices?
Animals and people.
On what scale do you think this was happening?
Enormous, far beyond what we've ever heard of here before.
Teresa's mother, Bridget.
You're talking about mass murder?
Yes, on a scale that this country's never heard of before. Like the old people's homes now, only these are...
For the first time, Teresa is learning what it's like to live with love instead of fear.
Pretty low.
In this quiet English village, with the help of her mother, she's slowly repairing her broken life. Teresa is now 15, but at the age of 2, she was left in the care of this woman, the grandma she called Nan. And that, she says, is when her torment started.
Who was the leader? Who was the boss of the gang, of the cult?
At home it was my nan.
Your Nan made you have sex with animals?
Yeah. Like goats and donkeys.
The story of Teresa is a story almost too horrible to recount. A case of child abuse that goes well beyond the kind of things we normally associate with the abuse of children. In 27 years of reporting, it has to be one of the most painful stories I have ever had to tell.
How many men or how many people would have sex with you?
What, at one time?
Yes.
About everyone who was there, which must have been about 20. You know, from 10 to 20 people. If it was a big ceremony, it used to be 30.
What would your grandma be doing when these men were forcing themselves on you?
Usually laughing. Or smiling. Or having sex with another man. Or other men.
A chronicle of debauchery and depravity so horrific it's hard to believe. You have to ask yourself, could Teresa be just making it up?
No. I know what's true and what's not. No, I know what I saw.
Children don't make up elaborate lies that this would have to be if it was a lie, which I know it is not. It isn't.
This couldn't be a terrible dream, a nightmare that you're reliving?
No. It's no dream. It's a nightmare, but it's not one you can wake up from. It's there all the time.
This really happened? You're quite sure of that?
Yeah.
The police don't think Teresa made up a story. Some of the cult members are to stand trial. 5 men have been charged with rape. As for Nan, the grandmother, she's 61 and lives in this council flat in South London. She's charged on 7 counts of aiding and abetting rape and 2 counts of performing abortions on Teresa. If you're finding this hard to believe, so did I at first. But then there are the medical reports, evidence of sustained sexual abuse. And there's this, a statement prepared for 60 Minutes by Teresa's psychiatrist. It says, "In my opinion, Teresa's account is not the product of a psychotic illness, nor the figment of a fertile imagination. I believe her to be telling the truth."
I know what's true and what's not.
We also took Teresa's story to this man, therapist Ray Wire. He reads a transcript of our interview and listens to her voice.
It's no dream.
Few people, if any, in Britain have counselled as many victims of satanic abuse or Satanists themselves as Ray Wire has. If there is an expert on satanic cults, it would have to be him. Do you believe Teresa's story?
I believe Teresa's story. It's exactly the same story as I've heard from men who says they've done it.
You've dealt with other cases like hers?
Yes.
21 cases like hers, he says, in the past 2 years alone.
Themes like they were put in boxes with spiders and worms, where they were trapped in fear, where there was a high use of excrement and urine, where there was talk of human sacrifice.
Take just one of those rituals, putting children in boxes with spiders and worms. Now, listen to what Teresa told her mother.
And they had a coffin-like box that children were put in with spiders and snakes and the lid shut and left in there. I would have come out deranged. I could not have coped with that mentally at all.
You have evidence to back up stories like Teresa's, that this is
Yes.
really happening?
Well, we have that age of child, 6, 5 and 4, giving information that ties up with Teresa. How do those children know? How do those children able to describe rituals, to talk about ceremonies, to talk about sacrificing animals? How do those children know?
Nightmares, imagining it?
You can't imagine those things at 3 and 4 years old, and you also don't have the evidence of anal sex abuse and oral sex abuse and all that other abuse that clearly those children have experienced and endured.
During these ceremonies, was Satan, the devil, ever referred to?
He was called Lucifer.
What did they say about the devil, about Lucifer?
That killing the people made him happy.
Sacrifices to please the
He
devil.
used to talk about
According to Teresa, the worst rituals took place at a house somewhere in the country.
it was big, you know, expensive. From the front, it looked like a castle. You know, it had a long drive and big double wooden doors.
Do you think they were rich people then?
Very rich.
Now, where was this big house somewhere in the country? Teresa says she can't take the police there because the Satanists made sure she'd never know how to find it.
Teresa was always drugged, or on a couple of occasions she says she was knocked out, so that she never fully knew the route.
There was a tramp who was brought in once, you know, and he was killed. He was cut from his throat down to his stomach, and they ate him, or bits of him.
They killed a man at a ceremony
Yeah,
in front of you?
yeah, in front of all of us.
Did the tramp, did this man fight back?
No, I think he was, you know, drunk or something. He seemed really dopey. He was laughing a lot when he was brought in. And he started screaming when they began to cut. But after a while, you know, he died. I'd seen a few killings before then. Although I wasn't used to it, you know, that was the worst one. I really don't know what I thought. I suppose I thought, thank God it's not me.
Let me get this right now. Are you saying that you saw more than one person killed in that house?
Yeah. I've seen loads of babies killed there, just newborn babies, or aborted ones which were only small. You know, 4-year-olds. Any age, really.
Did they ever say they might kill you?
They threatened to kill my little girl, who, when I left, was still at the house.
A friend?
Huh?
What little girl?
My little girl, Alex. She's about 4 now.
You mean you had a child?
Yeah.
How old were you when you had that child?
11.
Motherhood at the age of 11.
Never talked
But
about it.
from what Teresa told her mother, it wasn't the only pregnancy.
We think about 7 or 8 times. It's hard to say. It was constantly happening from the time she was capable of being pregnant.
What happened to the pregnancies, to the babies?
They were aborted by my nan or by one of the doctors at the house.
There were doctors there at that house?
Yeah, there was 2, I think. Yeah, and a nurse.
What would happen to the fetuses, the unborn babies?
They used to be taken away most of the time, and one time the baby was taken out of me and then killed in front of me because it was still alive.
And then, what would happen?
Well, after they killed it, they would eat it. Well, we were also made to eat it.
You were made to eat your own fetus.
Yeah.
Who made you do this?
My nan.
You'd think the one person in the world you could leave a little girl with would be Grandma. Someone to give her love and protect her from harm. Yet, when Teresa was left to live with her grandmother, they might as well have handed her to the devil himself.
Grandmothers, I mean, the vision it conjures up for you, a sweet old lady with grey hair, rosy cheeks, holding her arms out to love her grandchildren. And it was exactly the reverse.
But why was Teresa living with Nan in the first place and not with her mother?
Well, when my first marriage broke up, I took the children with me and couldn't cope. So I gave them to their father, who in turn moved to his mother's. And
To Nan's place?
Yeah. And when he left the Nan's place, he left the children there.
How do you feel now towards her grandma and the other people who did all those things to your daughter?
They disgust me. They are the worst form of life this earth has had the misfortune to create. Vile.
Did you ever try to run away? You must have been frightened.
A couple of times I did, but my uncle, he caught me and brought me back.
Going to the police? Did that occur to you?
No. No. I thought it was normal, you know, even though I didn't like it. You know, I mean, you don't like to eat greens, but you know, somehow I thought it was just her being called to be kind or something like that.
She said to me it was something that everybody did, she thought, you know, like you don't like going to school or the dentist, you don't like going to the black masses.
It was never any different. I didn't have nothing to compare it to.
All part of life, Teresa thought. Even a miscarriage one day at school.
Yeah, I asked the teacher if I could go to the toilet, and she allowed me out. I went into the toilet, and the baby was in my knickers. I thought it was dead, but it wasn't. It was still moving.
And yet no one at school knew?
No.
Saw anything?
No. Or if they did, they didn't say. No, she was treated for a high temperature, fever, nothing more.
What did she do with the baby?
She kept her for a while because she was frightened that they'd use the child as part of the rituals. So she turned the pencil case into a little coffin. Apparently she put roses in to make her smell sweet, put a letter with her, pictures of herself and her brother, a picture of me.
And then I put it down the chute because I didn't want my nan to get it.
As we said earlier, the police have already charged some members of the cult, and we know they're also investigating Teresa's accounts of those ritual killings. If there were as many as she told us, then the Satanists had a problem. How did they get rid of the bodies?
They had a tub, pretty big, I don't know. A very big tub, and they used to put the bodies and bones in there. And it used to go like, fizzy and that. And then there was nothing left. Or there didn't seem to be, but when they cleared it out, there used to be a sludge at the bottom.
Teresa's story, her account, doesn't really surprise you.
It doesn't surprise me in the light of satanic abuse, no.
Do you get frustrated with people who just won't accept that these things do happen?
Yes, because I've worked with murderers in prisons for years. Not that long ago, a boy was found in a forest in southern England without a head. We have no doubts that men can do that. And yet when we start talking about men within Satanism who actually believe in evil and it's the right to express evil, we suddenly have a doubt.
As I was leaving Teresa's place, she handed me this note. It's addressed to the film crew. She says, "Thanks for bothering to help kids like me. I hope it helps." On the other side, there's a poem Teresa made up while she was staying at Nan's place. She calls it Nothing Left.
Nothing left. I would scream, but there is no voice left. I would cry, but there are no tears left. I'd fight, but there is no strength left.
That was just part of our investigation of Satanism in Britain. We're also gathering evidence about the activities of such cults here in Australia.
Hello, I'm Liam Bartlett. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.
Maggie, up here, up here.
In 30 years of farming, Joe Brown has learned to be tough about his sheep.
Back here. Red?
Still, nothing could prepare him for what he saw in his sheepyards the morning after the massacre.
All these animals destroyed, and they were hacked and butchered and stabbed and bludgeoned, and I got a hell of a fright, really.
At first, they thought it was a pack of savage dogs. But when they looked closer, they knew it was humans.
Because some of them had their eyes torn out or gouged out, and they were walking around in the yards. So they were obviously suffering.
Like you're holding the animal out, like on an imaginary altar, if you haven't got an altar, that is.
The man who did it, John Charles Burdo.
You puncture the heart, make a sign, slit the throat and whatnot, and it goes on from there.
So where were the sheep?
In the furthest paddock, over there. We walked into the middle of them.
He hasn't been back to the sheepyard since the night of the massacre.
I lit a few candles and drew up a rough circle and dropped some symbols on the ground.
This is how Berto prepared for his sacrifice, with a ceremonial circle.
The circle is a protection.
He believed that inside it, he couldn't be harmed. His protector that night was the devil himself.
It was like a father to me. It was like a security. It was like a bond.
Even though the devil is, you must have known evil.
Yeah. He was still good. It's strange as it may seem, but like he's there, but he's bad and he's evil and everything else, but he was still good.
Did you love the devil?
At the time I did, yeah.
To find the devil in Warwick was an experience this quiet, profoundly respectable town has yet to get over. It's a God-fearing farming community, proud of its schools and churches. The last thing Warwick wanted was to become a case study of the dangers of the occult.
You know, you just think Warwick's a quiet little country town where everybody knows everybody and everybody's business. And for something like that to happen right in our midst, we were shocked.
You're aware that in Africa and other countries they do have black magic, but certainly not in the Warwick district. You know, it was a complete surprise to me.
When you chose to massacre the sheep as your ritual, why did you choose them?
For one reason only, the Lamb of God.
And that meant they had to die?
Yeah, they had to die, but not for God, for another God.
What tools did you use to kill the sheep?
2 butcher's knives and a tomahawk.
Wayne Richard Cockram. Like Berto, he was 17 at the time of the massacre. What did you think when you'd finished?
Holy hell. No wake up the next morning feeling pretty guilty. Had a gut feeling we'd get caught.
They were picked up within a week. Wayne Cockram hid from the cameras. John Berto spat at them. Both went to jail for the crime. Though no one will say precisely how many were there that night, there was definitely a third, Craig Anderson. When did you realise that there was devil worship involved?
When I spoke to Craig Anderson.
Detective Sergeant Bob Bennett of the Warwick Police.
It was obvious, he told me then, because he had a guilt complex and he just couldn't live with his guilt. So he told us everything.
To protect his witness, Detective Sergeant Bob Bennett found Craig a hideaway. A farm 40 kilometres from Warwick on the Darling Downs. On the way out, Craig stopped to break the news to his mother, Wendy.
I said, oh, what are you doing at the police station giving a statement? I said, how on earth would you know what went on there? And he said, he was there. And I said, you were what? You know, you're in amongst that? And I just started yelling at him and he ran out the back door. That was the last time I saw him. I thought he'd run to his room to get away from my temper.
Two days later, Craig Anderson was dead, found hanging from this tree. The police investigated the death of Craig Anderson and found that he committed suicide by hanging himself from that tree. Yet the people who knew Craig well still wonder about that. And his mother, even today, can't accept it.
Pelting down with rain in the middle of the night, or whatever it was, 10 o'clock at night, you're going to climb a dirty big tree in the middle of a storm, tie a perfect noose, and hang yourself. For a start, Craig couldn't tie a noose. There was no way.
No, he didn't seem like the type of fella who'd commit suicide. As when we done the thing with the sheep, he seemed to take it quite well. I don't even know what really happened to him. I don't know why he hung himself or if he hung himself.
To set up a fully fledged satanic cult in a country town like Warwick is a real test of ingenuity. To begin with, where do you get the information? How do you know which spells and symbols to use? Well, in John Burdo's case, he took the direct approach. He went straight to the local library, looked under O for occult, and he was off. And what the local library couldn't provide, they brought down from Brisbane for him. Did you initiate yourself into Satanism, or did you get someone to do it for you?
No, I initiated myself.
What did you do?
Well, what actually happened was I sat down. It was a sacrificial offering, but beforehand I made love to a friend of mine, which was a lady, of course. And but without her knowing it, I was performing a ritual. Like, before I actually had sexual intercourse with her, I lit incense and whatnot, and through my own concentration, I put myself into a trance.
For Burdo, it was the culmination of all the study and preparation. That night, he officially signed on with Satan.
In a ritual, I sold my soul, so to speak.
What did you sell it for?
Well, I sold it for mostly wisdom, riches, which I haven't attained yet.
With his new power, Burdo felt ready to form his own coven in Warwick. No one in Warwick knew exactly what was happening, but at the time, there seemed to be a spate of mysterious events.
Yeah, in the weeks leading up to the main massacre, we'd had attacks on several goats here, just single animals, but in a fairly vicious manner.
I thought they were mainly just going in for seances, but then I heard later that it got a lot worse than that. Girls initiated ripping themselves to pieces with fingernails and this sort of thing.
Was that a great feeling, to be running your own coven?
Yeah, well, it was, yeah.
Describe it.
I felt in power, I felt in control of those that are around me.
Burdo's first sacrifice was a chicken, an experience he describes as the most powerful in his life.
I felt beautiful. I felt on top of the world. I just felt brilliant.
What did you do?
Slit its throat, drained its blood into the chalice, and went on from there.
Drank the blood?
A portion.
What animals did you kill?
Everything from hens to kittens to cats to, in the end, sheep.
But on the night of the massacre, it all got out of hand. Burdo was trying to conduct a serious satanic ceremony, but for his mates, it came down to bloodlust. How much was Satanism and the devil to do with what you did that night?
What I done? Oh, nothing. I just went for the kill.
It got out of hand in the end because everyone's taken a little bit too psychotic and going into frenzies and whatnot, which was very strange.
Evil is a substantial reality, and to get involved in it and to give your allegiance to it is to very quickly get involved in something over which you've got no control, and we regard it to be highly dangerous.
Bishop John Reed of St Andrew's Cathedral in Sydney.
There's certainly, as you have shown in this particular incident that's on this program, it's brought death to some people, and I think that has occurred again and again.
John Burdo likes to see himself as the man in control, a master of the dark arts, always on the lookout for fresh recruits. That night, he initiated Craig Anderson into the cult.
Well, I can remember seeing his face after his initiation, and it was a scared and worried face. Very scared and worried face.
Not just initiated, but, as Burdo tells it, almost murdered.
At one brief second in time, I felt the need to actually, like, decease the man's life that was standing beside me. Decease Craig.
What, to kill him?
To kill him, yeah. Which is not a nice thing to say.
Why?
Why?
What were you going to do to him?
Well, I would have only done it in one action, and that would have been in one action, and that action would have been straight, you know, knifed him in the solar plex, and then gutted him, you know, knifed him in the solar plex.
What's your reaction to that?
Nothing would surprise me that John Burdo said. It honestly wouldn't.
To know that your son was that close that Burdo had a knife on him and nearly used it.
I don't know. But yes, he could have, I suppose.
Your
No,
son... Sorry?
No, it's all right. I'm just trying... You've just shocked me with that.
You could have stabbed one of your
Yeah.
good friends.
Yeah, I could have, no worries at all. Yep. Without even thinking about it, like, you know, just having a cigarette or something, just doing it. That's it. And it would have been all over and done with. I could have went mad and killed myself, you know, or something. I don't really know. Because at the time I was uncontrollable, and so was everyone else that was there.
I've even spoken to the police in Warwick about this, and they believe he's also capable of murder. Not only with animals, they said if it wasn't stopped when it stopped, he'd go on to something else and it'd be human beings next.
If I hadn't have been pulled up at that time, it would have eventuated onto something a little bit bigger and a little bit more powerful.
Craig Anderson died without telling anyone about his initiation. Burdo says he warned Craig to keep it a secret, or something bad would happen to him. You initiated him. Do you accept any responsibility for his death?
I accept all responsibility. Like, I shouldn't have even have brought him in there. Like, I shouldn't even have been involved in it in the first place. But, you know, it was something that happened, and I'm very sad. I wish he'd, you know, I wish things hadn't worked out for him like that.
In a way, did you kill him?
In a way, I did, yeah. I feel remorse for it, but what can I do, you know? In a way, I did kill him. Not physically, I killed him spiritually.
I would warn young people from being involved in any kind of occult practices, even if they appear to be amusing or funny, because they just lead step by step, and you can't tell what's going to be around because you've got no control over them. And certainly I would give any Satan worship the widest berth.
John Burdo has put the devil behind him. He wanted wisdom, he wanted riches. Now, he'd just settle for a job. If there's one lesson he's learned, it's not to underestimate the forces of evil. From your experience, from your knowledge, is it far more common than any of us being non-Satanists, imagine?
Yeah, far more common. It's out there. It's out there. It's lingering in the mists.
Hello, I'm Liz Hayes. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9 Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.
All I have is a picture in my mind how it would be if we were together. Let's pretend that that you're far away. Let's say you write to me, and you promise in your letter that you'll come home to my heart. When you come home, we'll never be apart. If I keep dreaming of you, start believing it's true. Soon you'll come home. Soon you'll come home. Soon you'll come home to my heart. Soon you'll come home to my heart. Soon you'll come home to my heart. If I believe.
Disney is very much heavily involved in MKUltra mind control, has been from the start. Disney was associated with Project Paperclip that brought the Nazi and fascist scientists into the U.S., and with them came MKUltra mind control and the formula for application of it. So Disney's been deliberately involved in it right from the get-go.